Super quick question here. How many tabs do you have open right now? If you're like me, it's a lot. And if you're running a business, it's a lot more. And with all those tabs, you're spending more time searching through data and less time, growing your business. But HubSpot's customer platform brings all your tools into a single powerful place that your teams can use together. So close those tabs. It's business growing time. Visit HubSpot.com to get started today. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It is September 6th. I'm John Weigell here with Ben Berkley, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Football is back, and sports betting companies are happier than anyone with another multi-billion-dollar season for them on the horizon. I mean, the only person that might be as happy as them is actually Tom Brady, who secured a $375 million deal to be a broadcaster this year. All that while the franchises themselves are valued in the billions. So how did we get here, and what are the economics behind the NFL's glorious return this year? We'll chat about that in a bit, but before that, let's give you the hits and headlines today in business and tech. To kick us off today, Verizon is going to acquire Frontier Communications for $20 billion. It's a big chunk of change. Frontier is the largest American fiber internet provider. It has 2.2 million subscribers in 25 states, adding to Verizon's 7.4 million connections. I've personally never heard of Frontier Communications for whatever reason, but this seems like a pretty large acquisition, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a big deal, assuming there are no issues in this thing. It'll close in 18 months. And I think the takeaway here is that it really nudges Verizon to the front of the fiber fight. I think their combined customers with Verizon and Frontier would top AT&T's fiber base. It's just like a really big multi-billion-dollar race that we don't talk about often, probably because it's really boring.
Like the Fiber Wars
yeah.
documentary on the History Channel.
Yeah, we've got like two telecom titans that are at battle, and that's on one hand, and then the other, it's just like nothing could put me to sleep faster.
Good for them, yeah. Next, Snap is being sued by New Mexico's Attorney General over claims that Snapchat lets predators easily target children through sextortion schemes. From there, we jump to YouTube. YouTube is adjusting its algorithm to limit teens' intake of videos about ideal body weights or fitness levels that can harm their mental health. Viewers ages 13 to 17 will still be able to watch such videos, but the platform is going to stop creating, quote, rabbit holes that foster repeated viewing. I guess this has something to do with adjusting the algorithm slightly so you don't fall down a bucket of body shaming type videos for yourself. But at the same time, one does think that you could just search for them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the idea here is great and it is important. And the execution of it, I just can't fathom. The guidelines apply to very broad buckets of content, things that idealize certain physical features over others, or, like ways to make your nose look slimmer was one example I saw, or, idealizes fitness or weight in pursuit of some sort of look. It's like there's a lot of room for interpretation of what's problematic, and I would assume it will really damage some influencers' businesses along the way. And you can imagine the lawsuits now, which is not to say they shouldn't try, because they should. It's just to say that like YouTube moderators, they have a much stronger constitution than I do. That's a really tough job.
Yeah, I would not wish it on anybody.
Mm-mm.
And off to Rite Aid. Rite Aid exited bankruptcy, shedding $2 billion in debt. The pharmacy chain will operate now as a private company led by former CFO Matt Schroeder. And finally, Chappell Rowan is canceling an unknown number of tickets scalpers allegedly nabbed for her Tennessee show and reallocating them to fans. Country star Eric Church pulled a similar move in 2017 with 25,000 tickets. I mean, all the drama that we've been hearing about the ticket industry for the past few weeks, especially with the Ticketmaster dynamic pricing in the UK with the Oasis reunion. It's nice to hear a story like this, I guess, of an artist giving back to the fans and actually preventing scalpers from scalping.
Yeah, I mean, it's a valiant effort, and I love to see it. And as someone who's been appalled at ticket prices that I've looked at, it's like, yeah, this is great. But it's also kind of like, not to pour cold water all over this, it's like trying to eliminate cockroaches from the world. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
As long as there are tickets, there will be resellers. and I'm not saying it's right, just saying it's a fact.
Yeah.
Where there's so much demand, there'll be people looking to get theirs. And so it's like you make a lottery system for the fans to get these tickets that are now put back on the market. I got this hunch that there are going to be some more scalpers right there in line to get those tickets yet again.
Just know and have faith that no matter how many ticket scalpers there are in front of the venue, there will be even more people miraculously selling a shirt from the concert you just went to right as you exit the venue. How do they get them? I don't know. Need to do a video on that, I think.
I think so.
Okay, on to the main story today. Every new football season seems to generate even more income than the one before. And now we're sitting on a season that could do up to $35 billion in sports bets. Meanwhile, we've got Tom Brady moving up to a broadcasting booth on a big deal, and franchise values are going through the roof. So, Ben, what stories will you be following super closely now that the NFL is finally back for a season?
Well, I mean, just traditionally speaking, the story that I'm always following first is my own personal journey of accepting life as an Arizona Cardinals fan and figuring out, the many ways that they will let me down in advance. It's very fun to project at what point in the season I will angrily turn off a game first.
Understandable.
But that's for me. For everyone else, I think just from a business standpoint, there's really only one story that you have to focus on every time you talk about the NFL, which is just looking at team valuations and just kind of losing your mind at how huge they are. We did this last year. We're doing this now. You can bet we're going to do it again next year. And the reason is they are absurd and they kind of challenge your internal logic. The last two teams that sold, which were the Washington Commanders and the Denver Broncos, they both sold for more than $6 billion.
Oh my God.
Which you're kind of like, oh, cool, mega wealthy guys just overspending on this big toy they've always wanted. And part of that is correct, but also this is just one of the best investments that exist out there. Like an NFL team is going to make you so much money.
Yeah, they will. I mean, consistently over time, the NFL has generated more income every year. And the revenue of these teams are kind of nothing to scoff at, because if you do own a team like the Denver Broncos, or you do own a team like now the Washington Commanders, I feel like there is a 99% chance that you're going to make money on that investment.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at the past 10 teams that have been sold, 7 of those 10, the percent gain has been greater than the S&P 500 during that period. It is that good of an investment. I mean, just looking at pure franchise value alone, we're up to a point where the lowest on the list, this list being CNBC's newest franchise valuation list, Cincinnati Bengals are at the bottom. They're still worth $5.25 billion. The media contracts, the numerical values on those are insane. Ticket sales, always doing great. Merch is always flying off the shelves. You also have owners that are controlling their own stadiums, and they're cashing in on big events like when Taylor Swift rolls through. They're making a big buck on that as well. You've now got private equity entering the picture. There's a collection of firms that's already committing $12 billion to gain up to a 10% stake in select teams. Business is just really good. It's been really good, and it's just getting better.
It really is. And the media rights sphere, especially too, with the NFL every year now being on a different streamer for a different playoff game. It's the Super Bowl. It's really kind of a cash grab at this point every year. But from there also, it seems to be quite a cash grab for people as well. And people who tend to love betting on sports, as football seems to be one of the biggest sports to bet on. And that coming back is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is another storyline that we just kind of have to look at every year because it's still a relatively new story. For most of its history, the NFL was kind of like, gambling, that's not for us. And then other states started to legalize sports betting, and suddenly they started to embrace it. It's a great way to increase interest in football. Sure. It's also a great way to make a lot of money. We're talking about $35 billion that are going to be bet legally on the league this season, according to estimates, which just shows kind of a year over year major percentage increase. And that's because we have different states coming on this year. We have Maine and Vermont and North Carolina. They've legalized sports betting. Florida's back in the game. They were gone for a while, and the court ruled that they are back. And just, with the proliferation of apps, which like 95% of bets are online,
Yeah.
it's exploded.
Yeah.
And it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, it is a chasm of sports betting. And my favorite thing about that statistic, about that $35 billion potential for this year statistic, is the word legally. Because if that's the legal betting amount, I shudder to think at the illegal betting amount. Very untraceable, I'm sure, but still, that is scary to think about on top of that.
A very good point. And, it's just like you see it creeping into the game so much more every season. Like, it used to be taboo for broadcasters to speak about betting, and now they're very openly promoting it. And we cut to commercial break, and all the ads are for, these companies that are sports books.
Right.
And so I think the question that we're going to see over time is not, will it continue to make money? Because yes, absolutely. It's like, is this going to be good? It calls to mind this study that we saw last year, where states with legal mobile sports betting saw credit scores worsening minimally, like 1%, but still worsening. The odds of bankruptcy seemed to go up like 5%. The collection of unpaid debts increased by 8%. There is this tailing effect of, how is this going to impact us on a societal level beyond just like, how nice is it going to be for everyone's bottom lines?
Yeah, exactly. And, speaking of bottom lines, the last thing I wanted to bring up today is a big fat contract that Tom Brady got this year, not for playing, of course, but now for commentating and for being an analyst.
Yeah. So, Tom Brady, he's living his charmed life.
Really is.
And that $375 million contract that's spread over 10 years, that's coming from Fox Sports, who put him in as their lead analyst for this season. This despite him never calling a game in his life. So I think it's just one of those stories that you have to watch solely because it's an incredible gamble. It's like, if he's a disaster, that's a lot of sunk money right there. Mm-hmm. Even just the win here feels very minimal, because if he's must-watch TV, that's all fine and great, but they're not exactly hurting for ratings.
They're really not.
Their previous top analysts got really high marks. So it's not like this is something that people were craving, was some high-end analyst on Fox broadcast. So all told, the first quarter of the Cowboys-Browns game, which he's calling this Sunday, it's just going to be fascinating TV, because you're just like going to be in the back of your mind thinking, is this guy going to be worth his contract? And I suppose you could have thought that on the football field previously, and he proved that he was worth every penny in those situations. So I guess it's not worth betting against him.
Yeah, I guess my big question is he going to be the guy to make that, John McEnroe transition, where one of the greatest players to ever do it, and then flips to a commentator? And it's pretty seamless, at least for John McEnroe, it was pretty seamless to tennis, but we'll kind of see where he ends up. I don't know, this might get me to actually watch some live football this year, just to suss it out a little bit. I'm not usually one to watch any game until the Super Bowl every year, so maybe this will get a casual viewer interested.
I've got great news for you. Brady's doing the Super Bowl in his first year.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah. Coming in a high-pressure situation, I guess that's kind of his thing. So, again, not betting against him, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. All right, that'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get signed up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram. We'll see you later, everybody. Hey everybody, I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by John Lee Dumas, and it's available right now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. It offers lots of energy, value, consistency, and it's for anybody who wants to learn more about entrepreneurship. It's super fast-paced and packed with valuable stories about entrepreneurs, their aha moments, their failures, and everything to what's working for them today. Recently, he had on this guest, Ashley Stahl, who talked all about her job at the Pentagon and how she evolved into becoming a top 100 TEDx speaker. She talks about evolving your brand from the ground up, leaning into the skills that you already have to build your brand, and also creating virality. It's a great listen. You should check it out. And you can listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts.